Port scanning is Nmap's core operation. We're going to save the full discussion of the port scanning phase until the module on TCP and UDP scanning. Right now, we want to discuss the portion of the port scanning phase that deals with port specification and how Nmap expands our port specification into a list of ports. As you'll see, it's very similar to the target expansion mechanism we've already discussed. There are two methods of port specification, either explicitly using the -p flag, or by reference using the data stored in the nmap-services file. Let's start by discussing the -p flag. The simplest way to designate a port is with a single target port. We can also provide a list of target ports. Each of the values in the list are separated by commas, and since the list must be passed through the shell as one argument, there must be no spaces in the list. Target ports can also be defined in a range of ports. Here the range 135-139 will be expanded to 135, 136, 137, 138, and 139. The default values for the lower limit of the range is 1, and the default for the upper end is 65,535. Either or both of the range endpoints may be left unspecified, for which the default value is assumed. So a range specification of -1024 is expanded to 1 through 1024. And a dash all by itself is expanded to 1 through 65,535, or all possible port number values. Lastly, port specifications can include the desired protocol. Usually Nmap performs either TCP or UDP scanning, but not both. If we want to mix and match ports and protocols, we can include the protocol designation with each port number list or range. Okay, let's talk about the nmap-services file for a few minutes. The nmap-services file is a configuration file distributed with Nmap that mimics the standard Unix/etc/services file. The services file is a table listing service names, like FTP or SSH in column 1, and the associated port numbers in column 2. There are several notable differences between the system file and the one distributed with Nmap. First off, the nmap-services file is a much more complete list of services. For example, the /etc/services file on my Linux system has 608 entries, while the nmap-services file has almost 20,000. Secondly, the nmap-services file includes a frequency field, which isn't included with the /etc/services file. We'll talk more about the frequency in just a moment, but the published value is an estimate of how likely it is that that port will be found open. Basically, the bigger the frequency number, the more popular the port is. So the simplest way to use the information in the nmap-services file is to specify a service by name. Nmap uses the services file to look up the port number and scan the designated port by number. Named services can also be scanned using a partial name and a wildcard, such as an asterisk, to scan all services that match the wildcarded string. For example, HTTP asterisk will expand to this list of HTTP services. Valid wildcards are the question mark, which matches a single character, and the asterisk, which matches 0 or more characters. The -- ports flag allows you to specify a count of the top most frequently used ports. For example, specifying a count of 5, the TCP ports that would be scanned are HTTP, Telnet, HTTPS, FTP, and SSH. The ports are selected based on the values in the frequency column of the nmap-services file. Lastly, ports can be specified by referring directly to the frequency value stored in the nmap-services file using the --port-ratio flag. The frequency supplied is constrained to be a value between 0.0 and 1.0, but practically, the values should be less than 0.2 if you really want to scan anything. As you can see from this sorted excerpt from the nmap-services file, the highest frequency listed is 0.48 for HTTP. Furthermore, the frequency values fall off dramatically to less than half that for the 10th most frequently used service, DHCPS. It should also be noted that most of these high-frequency services are UDP-based, with the only TCP service being HTTP at number 1. As we've demonstrated, you don't have to specify any port specifications at all, and Nmap will still scan something. So what's the default? By default, Nmap scans the top 1000 TCP ports. Of course, most of these port specifications can be combined. Here are 3 valid examples. In the first example, we're combining port number lists with port number ranges. The second example combines Nmap-services named services with wildcards and numbered ports. And the last example combines protocol specifications with lists and ranges.